Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Business Podcast, your source for all things business. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, today I have John Paul Mendocha on the line. He's co-founder over at Turnaround Engine Network, and he's also author of Most Businesses Fail in the First 5 Minutes, and he's author of Remote Work for a Better World. John, welcome to the show.
Adam, thanks a lot. I'm glad to be here.
Oh, man, John. So excited to get into today's topic. So we're going to talk about helping businesses with the turnaround. I mean, you're an expert in that, and I want to talk about, what that even looks like. But before we do that, let's go a little bit further into what you're doing over at Turnaround Engine Network. Tell us a little bit more about your company, please.
So what we're doing is we're actually helping people kind of learn about the turnaround market and how big this marketplace is, and more importantly, how if they're in a career transition or they're in a situation where they can actually start to find what I think is an invisible market. There is no Zillow, eBay, Amazon to go find businesses that are in trouble. There's no business that's sitting there with a president in the front, lobby waving a sign saying, "I'm in trouble, fix me." So we talk about how to do that. That's the first thing we do.
That's awesome. And that's why I wanted you on the show for this, because you're working day in and day out with helping businesses to complete this. So let's just jump right into the overall topic. So helping businesses turn around. I mean, what does that look like? Where do you want to start this topic? It's a big one.
Well, the first thing is that people have to realize that they're in trouble, and the current situation is they're in trouble. And what they have to do is go break down and now say, how do I, instead of having sales going south, start getting them going the right way? How do I communicate with my customers? How do I make sure my vendor base doesn't leave me? How do I make sure my employees don't leave me? How do I hold all of this together? And a turnaround encompasses all of that. I like to always think that if I walk up to the dock and the boat is on fire and the rats are leaving the ship, I go, well, that's my customer.
No, that's great. And so, John, tell me. There's some people listening right now, and they maybe are in that situation to where they don't necessarily know, or maybe they're a little bit further down the line, and they're asking themselves the question of, can my business make a turnaround? And this might sound like a loaded question, but you're the guy I want to ask it to anyway. Can every business turn around? Is this thing is like a unicorn, or is it possible for most businesses?
If you're committed to change and you're willing to do what's necessary, now your business may look dramatically different after the process, but your business can survive and eventually thrive. The mistake that people make is there's a series of things that they don't do. I'll just give you one of them, which is they've graduated from NIH, which is not National Institute of Health, but not invented here. And what they do is they're stuck. Adam, they're stuck. And what they do is they're clinging to that anchor, and that anchor is pulling them down. And at some point in time, you got to let that go. Well, I can help them do that in a variety of ways.
Can you give an example? I just want to kind of, put some meat on this one, because I know some of the people listening, they're thinking, yeah, but that can't work for me, or, it's not, I get it, but can you give us an example of just, and you don't have to give a company name or anything like that, but just an example of a type of business or a business that you've seen turn around and make one of these dramatic changes like you're talking about?
Well, I'd love to. I've worked with high tech, no tech, low tech, and anywhere in between. I've worked with service businesses, manufacturing, and all of those. A simple example is that I had a client, and he had a chain of medical facilities, and his problem was that every time they were doing a transaction, they were losing money. So in other words, every patient was walking out with a care plan and money. And what I did in a very short period of time is I altered and changed that. First and foremost is I got his pricing in the right order. I also took the 3 consultants and 2 advertising agencies, which frankly actually submitted expense reports, that all 5 of them went out and played a round of golf, got rid of all of those guys. And what I did was I actually reduced their cost of sales by 30%, increased their profits by 20%, but more importantly, went from a negative to a plus. So in less than 9 months, we had an extra $1 million in profit, just about $1 million, a little shy, in a $17 million business, which is a dramatic turnaround.
I am smiling ear to ear right now, John. That is a dramatic turnaround. I love to hear great stories like that. And I think it may be inspiring to some of the people listening to think about it and say, there may be some, you found $1 million, John. You can't get any better than that.
Well, and it was sitting right in front of them. And the hardest thing is that they were sitting there and they said, look, we're uncertain about how to deal with some of these situations because some of the changes that we had to do made some of the staff uncomfortable. And it comes down to this. You can be comfortable and out of business, or you can understand what we have to do. Now, patient care, for all those who are wondering, patient care went up dramatically. The number of complaints went down dramatically.
Wow.
How we interacted changed dramatically. And I can't emphasize enough that you can actually have much improved customer experience with, in fact, going out and building a profitable business. Those two are not mutually exclusive.
Man, I love that you say that, and I'm glad you brought up the customer experience side of things because it's not that wasn't like a trade-off. It wasn't like, oh, we found $1 million and now your customer experience went down. It actually like two of the key metrics that you'd be looking at, the profit and obviously the overall experience, which is going to ultimately determine long-term if you stay in business, right? Both went up. I love this, John. So let's change it up just a bit. I do want to spend the last couple of minutes we have talking a little bit more about your work and your books. As you're aware, I love, or you may not be aware, but the people listening are aware that have been following me for a long time. I love helping authors sell books. So give us some background on your books and where people can buy them, please.
So the book Most Businesses Fail in the First 5 Minutes really talks about what I learned a lot. I learned this long before that, but I learned a lot of it in doing turnarounds, which is most people right in the first 5 minutes make a fundamental flawed decision, and then they burn through all their resources and their family's resources and their venture, whatever, until they get to the end. It just takes them 5 years to have that, day of reckoning, which probably will be the title of the follow-on book to this, which is
the Day of Reckoning.
Well, it's like a client of mine said, when I asked him what was the worst day he ever had, and he said, well, when they repoed his jet. Well, to me, that's a bad day.
That's a bad day.
That's a bad day. So the book really is talking about how to position yourself, because that's fundamentally what needs to happen. Most businesses that need to do a turnaround have to be repositioned in the marketplace because they're usually kind of in a muddled position. We see that a lot from the bankruptcies that are popping up all over the place, is that nobody knows quite what they stand for. And that book is available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million. It's available in paper. It's also available in ebooks, also Kindle, Nook, Apple. And that was really driven by the fact that I've done so many things in business, and it was incorporating those things to get people to that next insight point, which is don't make that fatal mistake in the first 5 minutes and then suffer through it for the rest of your life.
That's awesome. So, John, really appreciate you coming on the show today. If somebody is listening and they want, so final question, if somebody is listening and they do want to follow up to learn more about how they can work with you and your team, question number one, what are the right types of fit usually in terms of a business or organization to connect and work with you and your team? And then question number two, what's the best way for them to reach out and to connect?
So if you have a business and you think that you need some help in how that business is going to go, so I'd rather help you before you're like, the ship on fire. So if you're doing at least $500,000 a year, we can talk. If you're doing anything above $50 million, you're probably going to go out and hire a lot of Harvard MBAs. And so we're in that range. Frankly, any other business that we're game for, because we can work with a variety of different businesses since we have a network. On the other side, if you're interested in learning about how to become or get involved, how to become a specialist, if you will, in turnarounds, then you would go to turnaroundengine.com. Actually, everyone can go there who has an interest. And then the other side of it is, and this is that little final tidbit I think I need to share with everybody, Adam, is that the amount of intellectual property that is just dropping to the ground right now. Just dropping to the ground. Think about the, big giant fruit tree, and it just keeps dropping. And the fruit is a little ripe maybe, but it's dropping this fruit to the ground. Nobody's picking it up. is tens of millions, hundreds of millions. It's going to be billions of dollars worth of intellectual property. So if you're an investor and you're interested in that, got to be qualified. We put that in there. But we're also looking at ways that we'll go out and pick up intellectual property, because intellectual property is just fallen all over the place.
That's awesome. Well, John, really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing more about your background, your books, and also your business. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review on the Apple iTunes Store. And if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, Mission Matters Business, definitely give us a subscribe there, but also leave us some comments in the video. Love to know what kind of projects and things that you're working on. And John, thanks again for coming on the show.
Adam, it's been my pleasure. Thank you, everybody.